Hello, welcome back to some historical video. Now I've made a few of these where I look at some old documents, and so far they have all been about the Battle for Normandy, or at least related to that. So I thought I'd do something different, namely go to the very end of the war, the last ditch battles of the Third Reich. And there's some interesting stuff here. So this here is Unternehmen Sonnenwende, or Operation Solstice, which was one of the last big counteroffensives that the Nazis launched on the Eastern Front. And this one went against the Russians in their kind of northern flank. If you can imagine, like Berlin is in where my mouse is now going in this direction here, and they hit them in the flank from the north. And as you can see, they didn't really go very far. They attacked at several places, broke through. They managed to relieve the town of Arnswalde, which was encircled at the time, and you can see here civilians, so there were civilians that were evacuated. Um, but it did have an effect because the Russians kind of freaked out that they were suddenly attacking the flank, and they actually stopped their march on Berlin, where they were already going in February, and instead paused and committed some time and resources to clear this area that was still in German hands on the northern flank, Pomerania and so on. So it didn't achieve much, but it probably made the war take a little bit longer. So as you can see, there were several attacks, and many of them were done by the SS. So this is the 10th SS Division, which was also in Normandy and during Operation Market Garden, the 4th SS Police Division, and many of the this is the 11th SS Nordland, and there's many kind of late war last ditch SS division like the 23rd, which nobody has ever heard of for good reason. Now, I'm not going to talk about these, although I will probably make like an SS related video at some point. But what I kind of want to look at is this little penetration here, because there's two kind of weird units that attacked here. First of all, the Führer Grenadier Division and the 281st Infantry Division. And these are interesting because nobody's ever really talked or heard about those. At least I haven't found much on the internet about that. So let's look at some of their stuff. First of all, the Führer Grenadier Division. Despite having Führer in the name, this was not actually an SS division. Instead, in the summer of 1944, this was built as a brigade from the Großdeutschland Division, which was an elite normal army division. And it was built from their ersatz, so from their replacement troops, and fought on the Eastern Front. It then took part as a brigade in the Ardennes offensive against the Americans, actually. And then, shortly before this battle, it was turned into a full division, including tanks and stuff. So it basically was turned into what was called a Panzer Grenadier Division at the time. And I do actually have the docs here from March 1945, so very late. So this was actually after the battle, but it's quite interesting to look at one of these weird last-ditch units here. As always, a little look at their artillery first. This battery here, the heavy one, was apparently still being created at the time of this report. So they had here normally the 4 normal howitzers per battery. These seem to have been Vespers and Hummels, if I read that right. So yeah, quite well equipped here. In terms of tanks, they had Panthers. So these are companies, 14, 13, 10. And then they had 2 companies of Panzer IVs. But the Panzer IVs here, so these are 40 normal Panzer IVs apparently. And here, this is kind of hard to read, but these are 8 Panzer IV L70s, which would have been Jagdpanzer IVs with the Panzer gun. 7, I think, L48, so that's the first version of the Jagdpanzer IV, and then 3 normal Panzer IVs. And this is one thing that you often see in these last-ditch German panzer divisions, is that, or Panzer Grenadier divisions in this case, is that normal tanks are substituted by their assault gun variants, and this has happened here apparently due to shortages. So as you can see, 1st of March. Also interesting, one weapon that you see quite a lot at this stage of the war are the 1.5 centimeter anti-aircraft half-tracks. And they actually say 3 Vierlings here. Normally these were triple guns instead of 4-time guns. So this might actually be a variant that I've never seen. But yeah, these triple anti-aircraft guns were very common in the last year of the war. They were made from old aircraft machine guns that weren't used anymore. So quite interesting. And also directly attached to the tank regiment, or tank battalion, I should say, they also had apparently some kind of Panzergrenadier unit in SPWs, but only, well, one battalion, so not as much as a normal Panzer division. And what you can see here is that the platoon vehicles had the 2-centimeter anti-aircraft gun on top in a so-called Hängelafette, which is also a feature of late war Panzer units, having these as the platoon leader vehicle. So yeah, quite interesting there. Most of the Panzer Grenadiers, though, were only transported in trucks or maybe bicycles. It's hard to tell here. One interesting thing here is that they have here 11 light machine guns and also 30 Sturmgewehr 44s. So these apparently they didn't have a symbol for those. But it indicates that in each of these there was one platoon that was equipped with assault rifles. And then these down here I think are Panzerschrecks, so 3. If you remember from the Panzerlehr division in Normandy, they had a lot more Panzerschrecks, so that's not the case anymore here. But yeah, here again, these all had one Sturmzug, one assault platoon in the Panzergrenadier units, but apparently not in the ones that use the half-tracks, only in the truck-borne ones. So yeah, Führergrenadier division. Oh, and I should say they also had Stucks attached. So these are all Stuck 3s, and this one means Begleit. This is also a feature of late war, really late war Panzer divisions or Panzergrenadier divisions. A Begleit unit was basically infantry that was assigned to these assault guns to ride on them like the Russians. They were usually equipped with STG-44s and G-41s, or G-43s, I guess. And also had one sniper rifle assigned to them per squad, although you can't tell that from here if that was actually the case. But yeah, this was a typical kind of setup for a late war tank hunter or assault gun unit. Yeah, then we have a flak here and all that kind of stuff. One thing that is quite interesting here with this unit is the small arms. Now, first of all, the STG-44s don't actually appear here, which makes sense because this back of the sheet kind of thing is usually about the units that is not, about the equipment that is not in front of the document. So this is all that does not show up in the normal sheet. So in this case, the K98Ks, they only had 20 sniper rifles, then G43s, machine pistols, all quite normal. Now the captured weapons are quite interesting. Now first of all, they have 138 Italian machine pistols, which would have been the Beretta machine pistol, which in late war German units is extremely common. They actually replaced the MP40 in production. The MP40 was being phased out in late 1944. These were still produced, and units also use them as substitutes for missing STG-44s. Quite normal though. What's not normal though is Machine Pistole FI, so Finnish, which I guess would have been Suomis, and these don't show up a lot. And it's not even, I mean, they're not even like a few. I mean, they had 59 of them, which is quite interesting. 59 Suomis. I have no idea if anybody knows a story behind this, where they got them or how they used them. I would be very interested in that. But apparently they had them. And then you can see Browning high powers and the Polish pistol. So yeah, that's the Führergrenadier Brigade. The other unit that was in this sector, the 281st, is also quite interesting. I have them here. And the 281st Infantry Division is, as you can imagine, a normal infantry division, but it actually isn't. This used to be a so-called Sicherung or security division. So these were actually used, and this unit in particular were used for anti-partisan combat and then later also shoved into the front line for lack of other options. This also means that this unit was actually involved in quite a few war crimes, including using civilians for clearing mines, that kind of thing, because the anti-partisan warfare that the German army did usually involved a lot of outrages against the civilian population. But yeah, at the end of 1944, this was converted basically by renaming it into a infantry division. So they renamed the security division and made an infantry division out of it. At this time, they were in the Kurland pocket, but they were transported from there and then took part in this offensive. Now, so as you can see, they had two infantry regiments here, and one of them was very weak, only had 2 battalions, the other one had 3, although some of these were also quite depleted. And the artillery is fairly normal, but they didn't have any really heavy artillery, only the 10.5 centimeter light howitzers. So there's that. Now, what's interesting about this unit is their Panzerjäger or Tankhunter-Abteilung. So as you can see here, 4 Panzerkampfwagen Sherman, 9 Panzerkampfwagen T-34, 4 Panzerkampfwagen T-43, 1 Panzerspähwagen Panhard, 4 Panzerspähwagen Russian, and to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what this is. 1 MJW, I guess? Medium infantry wagon? I don't know. Not entirely sure what this was. And then they also had a bunch of captured guns here, 5 centimeter guns, 4.5 centimeter Russian, 7.62 centimeter Russian, and then the normal Pak 40s are here, and also some Panzerschrecks. So yeah, they actually had more tanks in this infantry division than some panzer divisions had at this point. But it's all foreign tanks, obviously. Now the Spähwagen Panhard, of course, is this French one that... No, wait, that's the Russian one. This French one, which we also have in FH2. I think we actually have a German skin for that as well, although we haven't used that yet. And then the Russian one was probably the BA-64, although the Russians also had other models of scout cars. But yeah, basically, if you were a Russian in February of 1945, there's quite a chance that a bunch of T-34s and Shermans were coming towards you. Oh, by the way, before you get too excited, the T-43 here is probably the T-34/85. I think the Germans often call that the Model 43. It's not that prototype that the Russians had. That would be really weird. In terms of small arms, it's sadly like the quality here. These are all, I should say, by the way, from the American archives. Quality here isn't that great. We see you have rifles, self-loading rifles. These seem to be 5 MP28s. This is a feature of security divisions. They often use these interwar machine pistols. 345 MP38, so MP40s, and 301 Sturmgewehr 44s. So they did get these modern weapons as well. But they didn't put them into their normal, into their normal organizational chart, other than, compared to the Führer Grenadier Division. So that's just a difference in paperwork. So we don't exactly know how they use them, but they probably also formed some of their units into assault platoons. 7 sniper rifles, not a lot. And in terms of captured weapons, 106 MPR, so these are either PPDs or PPSH-41s. And PPDs is actually quite possible since they were involved in mopping up partisans and Russian forces that had been bypassed early in the war. Then 1 Russian sniper rifle, 1 Russian self-loading rifle, so probably an SVT or one of the earlier ones, and 48 light machine guns Dektarev, so these are DPs basically. Now, I'm not sure if they actually use these in the normal infantry, though. Usually, and I say usually, not necessarily, but usually, the Germans actually marked their captured weapons in the normal charts with an R in order to indicate those, but that doesn't seem to have happened here. So yeah, interesting look at some of the last-ditch German units that were involved in these offensives and that you don't really hear a lot about. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.